All right, reading Kotaku today, and there's been another female game developer who's been driven out of her home due to death threats. And at this point, it's almost like the same old song and dance, but now they're actually being shown on MSNBC, where they completely misconstrued the GamerGate narrative. So, what has happened? Well, first off, there was a female game developer named Brianna Wu who fled her home last night. Long story short, she's kind of explains it in her. It's kind of explained in her tweets here, but she was basically making memes. Oh no, these are the death threats. My bad. She was making memes that on 8chan that were making fun of GamerGate, and then people responded by making memes making fun of her, and someone on 8chan doxed her, and then proceeded to use this Twitter account to send her death threats. And here are the death threats. They start off, you made a shitty game, no one liked. That's it. Nobody will care when you die. And the thing, it's, once again, I guess the timestamps, because they happen so quickly. 7, 8, 9, 10 minutes, 11 minutes. But whatever. Because that just leads into all of the, was this a real death threat? At this point, it doesn't really matter if it was real or not. The police are looking into it, and they'll find out if it was a real person or not. The problem is, just like before with Anita Sarkeesian, this unknown person who sends her death threats is now being linked to Gamergate. There's no real evidence that this person is even the same person that doxed her. And what they don't tell you is that while this was going on, the people on 8chan who were seeing this, they were telling this guy, do not dox this woman, leave her alone. They were not going along with it. But of course, you're not going to hear about that. Let MSNBC tell it that everyone on the Gamergate forum was like, yes, well, dox that bitch. Send her death threats. Get rid of her. Kill her. And, she had to leave her home and whatnot, and the police are investigating. Wu has written about harassment against women in gaming, has long been critical of the recently formed GamerGate movement and what she and others have seen as the targeting of women in the industry. The interesting thing about this, I'm going to play a few clips of the MSNBC video, and in that video, she talks about how I have been harassed, or women in the industry have been mistreated. But she's not talking about Gamergate. She's like talking about men in the industry and the gaming industry as a whole. And they keep bringing up the gaming industry is like 70%, 76% male, and it's saying like that's a bad thing, or even a surprise. And I think that playing a few clips of the video will explain more of their, just misinformation in this Kotaku article. So I'll read a little bit more of this. This is, this part is just explaining, she was on 8chan, and she was, which is this, there's a specific chat room for GamerGate, and she says that well, she says it in the video as well. I'll play this. We can take a look at this.
After receiving death threats like these, you just made a blank game nobody liked. That's it. Nobody will care when you die. And this one, I hope you enjoy your last moments alive on this earth. You did nothing worthwhile with your life. There were also tweets so graphic we can't show them to you. It's all part of what's being called Gamergate, a shocking debate about...
Yeah, pause right here. Once again, the news reporter is saying this is a part of Gamergate, when once again, the person who doxed her was on 8chan. But we do not know if that was a Gamergate supporter or not. These people are anonymous. Any anonymous person could have come on that site and doxed her. Someone who either, if you want to go with the, on one side, it could be a person that she knew, and it could be a whole false flag. But on the other hand, which I think might be a bit more realistic, is it's just a hacker who doesn't like these people and went on there and doxed them. Probably, because there are trolls on the internet, and since this is a headless movement, trolls can easily infiltrate it and attack people and dox people and what have you. And I think that is probably what happened. So I'll continue.
Sexism in the gaming industry that you might not have heard of, but that has already spawned 1 million tweets and counting to the GamerGate hashtag. It's an online battle of the sexes over how gamers are portrayed and the sometimes violent reaction to women who speak out. Eric Johnson writes about the video game industry for Recode. And Eric, explain how the GamerGate began.
Right. So from the beginning, GamerGate supporters have claimed that this is about journalistic ethics and about supposed corruption in the gaming industry, but it has originated as, and it's continued to be, about sort of undermining women in the gaming industry. It began as a blog post that was accusing a female game developer of sleeping with a prominent games journalist, and then claiming that then that journalist then went on to write a favorable review of her game. Now, the reality is that review doesn't exist, never written. But that claim is still being repeated in GamerGate circles. People are still saying, well, this is evidence of corruption. This is, a thing that happened, even though it didn't.
Now, they're leaving out the fact that she admitted to her boyfriend that she cheated on him with these people. And that even though he might not have written articles about her, the people have financially supported her.
And the person that you're talking about is named Zoe Quinn, and she actually also had to go into hiding. She was actually the first person, apparently, who had to go into hiding after getting all these threats and people claiming that she was, using sexual...
Good Lord, she's ugly.
...wiles to get better reviews of her games. But then how did a second woman, Brianna Wu, get drawn into it?
Sure. So it's been sort of an ongoing thing for coming up on 2 months now, this sort of online debate, this hashtag campaign. And as I understand it, Brianna posted a meme sort of making fun of GamerGate. She had tweeted some things sort of exposing some of the problems with the internal logic of GamerGate, and someone made an online meme out of it, where it's a funny picture with text over it, sort of like a lolcat. She posted that, and as quote-unquote retaliation for just sharing a meme, someone made death threats against her.
And so let's bring in Brianna Wu, who is a video game designer, an independent video game designer, who says she did receive death threats for speaking up for women in gaming. So Brianna, thank you for being here. And we should note that you are not in your home right now. You are somewhere else because you said you've been threatened. Talk a little bit about how these threats began for you.
Well, it was like...
Note how they say over and over and over again that she is not in her home right now and she's been threatened. She is not in her home right now and she's been threatened. She is not in her home right now and she's been threatened. It's like, yeah, we know. Why are you repeating it over and over and over and over again? Could it be to garner sympathy and make you just hate the shit out of this GamerGate movement that you, the public, know nothing about? Other than what MSNBC is telling you?
It was like my friend over at Recode was saying. I posted this meme. It was just six shots. It was a simple tweet. I didn't think anything about it. And later that evening, I turned back on my Twitter, and I saw that 8chan, which is an extremist group of people that were actually banned from 4chan, as controversial as 4chan is.
So now she said that 8chan is an extremist group that was banned from 4chan. They were not banned from 4chan, they left 4chan. The people on 4chan, who were trying to talk about GamerGate were not allowed because the creator of 4chan is in cahoots with social justice warriors and people who 8chan is directly I'm gonna keep saying 8chan. GamerGate is directly criticizing. And so Moot and the moderators did it for free, as they say, and pretty much stopped everybody from talking about it. And so 8chan was created to have, get back to basics and having free speech on their website. But, they're an extremist group. Extreme.
These are the people people too controversial for 4chan. It's a
If controversial, you just mean Moot doesn't agree with it.
board completely started for Gamergate, and these people had flooded this meme with thousands of alter memes kind of attacking me.
Right.
Many of them insulted me. Many of them threatened me. Some of them were very scary. And you and your viewers.
Note how before we even get to the doxing and death threats, she's acting like people making memes counter to her memes are like violent and oh my god, this is so traumatizing. Give me a fucking break.
Can go look at those.
And Brianna, can I just ask you, is there a general sense of sexism in the video game designing industry? Do you as a woman feel like there is sort of a constant undercurrent of sexism?
See, this is the part where we leave Gamergate and we leave 4chan and 8chan and we jump into the entire video game industry. And she's going to proceed to say the whole goddamn thing is just sexist as fuck.
Absolutely. If you look at my career professionally, I speak out on these issues, very regularly. And because of that, I'm a target. So I can tell you right now, this is a very powerful message, and I want you and your viewers to hear this. I know almost all the women in the game industry at this point. All of us are terrified about this. We are terrified about our jobs. We are terrified that we are going to be next. And what we feel is there is a
She says, I feel terrified that we're all going to be next. By next, I assume we will be the target of Gamergate because we're all just a bunch of misogynists who dox people and attack people. But if you really feel that, why would you go to 8chan and antagonize people? Because you probably knew that there were trolls on there who have nothing better to do than attack people. It's kind of, it's kind of inevitable with these types of websites with 4chan and 8chan. Despite all the good it might have, there's always going to be trolls on there who will, attack people.
war.
Not saying that I'm not trying to blame her. I'm not victim blaming. Before anybody fucking comes out and says that shit, I'm just saying that if these women in the industry are shaking in their boots because they think that 8chan is this fucking terrorist hate group of women that will attack them at any given moment, why would they go to the website in the first place? But, let's continue.
In this industry, I'm with it. They've taken out my friend Samantha.
Here, sexism experienced by women in gaming. Now, I assume this is the gaming industry and not women who just like to play games. They have claimed inappropriate sexual jokes, belittlement of skills, being invited to meetings that were actually dates. Are we going to see even one example of this? No.
Alan, they took out my friend Jan Frank by intimidating her. They took out my friend Maddie Bryce.
And when you say take out, what do you mean? Got them?
Now, these people that she's mentioning, I will look into these people and see what their story is in later videos.
To leave the industry?
Absolutely. Bullied to the point that you say, hey, I have other career opportunities. I'm going to go work somewhere else. I'm a software engineer. I can work in...
Hold on a second. I think it's too good. It's too good to be true. And I know I must be like, I've seen too many... I think I've seen the Manchurian Candidate one too many times, but does anybody else notice that ISIS militants continue to travel to Kaban is directly under this while they're talking about Gamergate, after we have all been compared to ISIS? I know it's probably just a coincidence, but it's just so... Ooh...
I'm going to go work somewhere else. I'm a software engineer. I can work in different industries other than this one.
Kobani,
I have to tell you, a question I ask myself a lot lately is, do I just want to go get a job in an industry that's frankly less sexist?
Yeah.
And go ahead.
And Eric, I want to bring Eric back in because this is an industry that used to be just overwhelmingly male, but now it is about 22%. We just put the graphic up. We can put it back up again. That men make about 76% of game designers, women about 22% in the game development industry, a very small number transgender. It is an industry that is still overwhelmingly male dominated, and women are reporting things like inappropriate sexual jokes in the workplace.
Let's take a look at this statistic. I'm not trying to deny that women are claiming that they've been sexually harassed in the workplace, but let's be real here. Are you are they honestly going to tell me that the people who were um, sexually harassed, they did not report this? Because I'm pretty sure if they reported this, people would be fired. It seems to me like they're trying to jump back and forth between, GamerGate is full of misogynists, and the entire gaming industry is full of misogynists as well. Or at least all the men are misogynist, and they hate women. And there's this 2% transgender. Like, they always show these statistics where they basically say, see, men dominate the industry, and that's bad. As never mind the fact that most women were never really interested in coming into this industry, as long as men have. And as for transgender, I mean, well, how many transgender people do you think there are on this planet?
Littlement of their skills, being invited to quote-unquote meetings that were actually dates. How long and how extensive is, at least in your reporting, this issue of not just sexism, but really sort of threatening sexism inside of this industry?
I mean, it's been a long bubbling under the surface, but this has been happening for a long time. There's been some really interesting writing online about, especially in the consumer culture, the gamer culture, about sort of the roots of why people are lashing out at women, at these groups that are now having an increasing voice in the industry. But it's not something that's really been overt or explicit. It's been a lot of things happening sort of in the office and kind of behind closed doors, as I understand it in the past. This is really something where it's coming to the surface, and that the consumers, that the gamers are really the ones who are now running with this now, as opposed to the industry doing stuff where it's not something that the public is exposed to.
Right. And Eric, do you get a sense of why these male gamers are so angry? What is the source of the kind of rage in some of these attacks?
So I'm cribbing from some very good writing online that I've been reading about this.
Very good writing online that he will not say who wrote it. He will not cite any kind of source. Also, the question, where do you think all this male rage is coming from? Obviously, he's not going to talk about the dozens of publications that attacked everyone on the same day with an article that was extremely biased and peer-reviewed by two more or less feminist organizations that are just hand in hand with each other. They're not going to talk about that. They're not going to talk about all of the just blatant, like other than the harassment. They're not talking about the silencing of opinion, the outreaching to go to websites that were talking about Zoe Quinn. Oh, we think that this woman is engaging in nepotism, and these other people engaging in nepotism, and no, they're not going to talk about any of that. He's going to go with this rambling theory, but pass it off as fact.
But there's a really interesting theory that...
A really interesting theory. It sounds like a really interesting opinion.
In the past, nerd culture and gamer culture, it was marginalized. It was considered, this geeky thing, these losers in their basement, and that the culture got stronger because they rejected outsiders. They rejected the people who told them they were wrong.
No, the culture got stronger because despite the fact that mainstream society was goofing on nerds for liking video games, nerds didn't stop liking video games. We played them, and we played them, and we played them, and more games were made because of it. And that is what spawned the nerd culture, and that is what spawned the gaming culture that it is today.
And now games are this huge industry, and a huge amount of money represented here. And now it's a much bigger group than it used to be. But they're still clinging to this idea that, we need to reject people who are criticizing the way we do things. So, for instance, you have academics like Anita Sarkeesian, you have journalists like Lee Alexander saying, hey, there's a problem with your culture, and their reaction is an overreaction. It's to lash out and to...
If by saying there's a problem with your culture means trying to kill that culture, then, yeah, I guess there'd be a backlash.
Violently reject any sort of perceived threat to who they are.
And Brianna, do you see any way of, you've been tweeting that you're not going anywhere, despite the fact that you are currently in hiding, that you want to change this culture. How do you suppose that can be done?
I think it needs to happen from the top down. You know, to tack on to something Eric was saying, this is a problem with the gamer culture, but it's also a problem with the professionals within the gaming industry. If you look at IGN and Giant Bomb, these are sites that are predominantly run by men, and they are choosing to not cover what's happening to women in the industry.
And that is because they are predominantly run by men, right? Like, what kind of statement is that? Do you have proof that these hordes of women are coming to IGN and the other place and saying that all these men are harassing us and do something about it? And they say, no, bitch, get in the kitchen.
If you look at the industry's hiring practices as a whole, they're tilted very severely against women. You just gave the stat that 22% of the people in this industry are women. But I have to
see, this just sounds like the industry hiring process is slanted because 76% of them are women. This is like the same argument, like, oh, there's a gender pay gap because women aren't paid as much. Never mind the fact that women aren't working the same jobs in aggregate. It's not a pay gap, but that's a whole different other story. I don't want to get off topic. The reality is, just because there are more men in an industry than women or transgendered people, also they don't really point out any gay or lesbian. So I guess there's no homosexuals in in the industry at all, apparently.
to tell you, there's a deeper story than that, because many of those roles are in marketing. In tech as a whole, women make up a little bit more than 20% of programmers, but here in the games industry, we're only 3% of programmers.
And that is because of sexism, right?
Look at the culture from the top down that's sending these messages to women very subtly and unconsciously. You are not welcome here. This is a boys' club, this is our turf. And it's not that the men are conscious that they're doing this. I love and respect the men that work in this industry with me, but they have attitudes frequently that they don't understand or are antagonistic. And what we need as an industry is a dialogue about this. And we need these men to listen to women when we tell them what our experiences are.
Listen and believe, ladies and gentlemen.
Right, and you are starting that dialogue right now. Thank you very much, and stay safe, Brianna Wu, as well as Eric Johnson. Thank you both for being here, and we'll be right back.
And there you have it. This is not my video. This is from Zenith the One. If you, so I'm not trying to steal someone's video and not give them credit, So go over there and, give that person a thumbs up or whatever the fuck on their video. I'll give them a thumbs up. Well, I guess I'm not signing in right now. My point in all of this is, yes, it's unfortunate that this woman has been sent death threats by random people. But, it's going to be hard to feel some sympathy when they are basically taking this and attacking GamerGate when there's no real proof that GamerGate was involved in sending her death threats. And even with 8chan, there's no real way of determining that a actual GamerGate supporter sent those death threats. And it seems highly unlikely when you realize that the people on 8chan were actively telling this person not to dox her, not to attack her. And I would like to see them talk about that on the news, but they're not. So what do we have? We have another blow in the GamerGate battle, if you will, where we have another woman who has to run away from her home because of sexism in gaming. But only this time, we have the typical, this is a random person, and we have no proof of this, but we're going to relate it to GamerGate, and we're going to talk to people who don't know about GamerGate and say GamerGate is just a bunch of angry nerds who hate women and yada, yada, yada. And we're not going to talk at all about the Game Journal Pros list. We're not going to talk at all about what goes on in that list, or the fact that Milo brought it to the forefront and they had to shut it down. We're not going to talk at all about the hordes of articles that were written saying gamers are dead, we're all sexist, misogynist pigs. And even before that, these sites have actively sought out and attacked men especially white men. I don't know what they have against white men, but whatever. That all white men are sexist pigs and yada yada yada, and this is Gamergate. Gamergate is people who send death threats and yada yada yada. I know I keep saying yada yada yada. I'm sorry. I won't say that anymore from here on in. But the interesting thing about this woman, this Brianna Wu, is that she takes it a step further and attacks gaming industry as a whole and makes blanket statements that IGN and the other website, I forget the name, I'll put it in the description when I post this, they and the whole industry as a whole is just filled with sexism, and they mistreat women all the time. And look at these statistics. There's only 2% transgender people in the gaming industry. That means that they are actively discriminating against the millions of transgender people who want to be in the gaming industry, but they won't let it because it's a boys club. And look, there's only 22% women in the gaming industry. That is because of sexism. They always do that. It doesn't matter what it is, they'll just show a statistic, and if there's more men in it than women, then of course it's because everyone is sexist and everyone is misogynist and everyone hates women. And I think, there could be a bit of are these women trying to just weed out all of the men who are not on board with the whole anti-Gamergate campaign? The guy who's talking here is clearly, in the social justice warrior camp. But for her to just say that the overwhelming majority of men in the industry are just as bad as Gamergate, apparently. I mean, think about that. What is going to be the backlash between them? I mean, these guys are like, hey, we're fucking Kotaku. We're fucking Polygon. We've been defending you guys the whole time. They're all a bunch of sexist misogynists, but not us. I mean, look, fucking Stephen Totilo wrote this shit. But, what's going to happen when these women all turn on you guys? I mean, of course, I don't think she would dare call out Kotaku or Rock Paper Shotgun or Polygon or any of those sites. But she had no problem calling out IGN. And if my memory serves me correct, I don't really recall IGN posting any pro-social justice rhetoric. But I could be wrong. I'm going to end the video here, and there will be more information on Brianna Wu as it comes out. But as of right now, I would discourage people from running with these, she doxed herself, she sent herself death threats, because when you say that, we have no proof either way. There's no proof that she did it. There's no proof that she didn't do it. All we know is somebody did it. And when you jump to the conclusion that she fucking did it herself and she's a lying bitch, it goes right into their narrative. They want you to say that she sent herself death threats or she did this herself. So then they can say, look at these Gamergate people. They sent me death threats. And then when I called the cops, they said I did it myself. Oh my God, I'm not sending death threats to myself. Ah! So, and that just, it's going to make us look terrible. More terrible than they're already presenting us. Because, like I said, many times before, they speak nothing of our actual concerns. The only thing they talk about is Zoe Quinn and Anita Sarkeesian, and now Brianna Wu is on the list. Now we have our three, our three musketeers or whatever. And it's like, I remember reading a Breitbart article where they were saying like, yeah, Zoe Quinn keeps getting brought into this shit because you keep bringing her up, because their only line of defense in all this, you must know at this point, is the shaming tactics. They don't have anything to counteract the real accusations of their nepotism. So they constantly bring up Zoe Quinn and Anita Sarkeesian. And their whole mode of attack is, we're just going to ignore everything they say and make sure no one ever hears it. Because all we have to say is, look, they sent this chick death threats. Even though we have no fucking idea who sent those death threats, and the person who attacked Anita and still hasn't even been identified. So think about that before you just throw all gamers underneath the bus. I do not hate women. The overwhelming majority of gamers do not hate women, nor have we ever hated women. We do not have a problem with women in the gaming industry. We encourage it. What we don't encourage is radical feminist social justice propaganda in our games. We don't appreciate being attacked over and over again for years, and when we complain about it, we're told to shut the fuck up. We don't like these clearly biased reports on video games, and when we call it out, we get attacked. That is what we're about. We're about transparency in gaming. We do not condone death threats, rape threats, but as far as just sending memes, I mean that is child's play. But it started off with memes, and then she was doxxed and blah blah blah. So that's all for now.